All right. There may be other people who join us on Zoom, but we're going to get started right now because it's already nearly 5 after. So today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things to talk about. This was one of the very first classes I ever did, but of course it's been updated to be more current. But this is a class on how to get your offers accepted, like beyond negotiations, right? Let's presume that you're not that you're tied with someone else for the best price and terms. How do you get over the top if you're in that range? This is not a class on how to negotiate. It's more a class on how to show your client in the best possible light and look totally professional. That's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get right into it. I'm going to skip that. So there are 6 things that we want to cover today. Why offer presentation is important. It's so important. Anyway, we'll get into that. I want to talk about how to prepare yourself to write the offer for your client, elements of the offer that should always be there, how it should look, how it should show up for the recipient listing agent, how to present it to them. So there's 2 things. There's one of how they experience it, and the other is how you share it. 2 different things. And then follow up. That's what we're going to cover. So I'm going to dig right in. There are 3 reasons why this matters. As I said right off the top, it can give you a competitive edge. It can be the difference. I can't tell you how many times in my career a listing agent has said to me, we liked your offer because it was so well written. It was so well put together. It gave us confidence that you would be the right person for us to collaborate with in the sale of this home. Not worded quite like that, but that idea, right? It's going to make you look professional. And even if you don't win it, other agents will remember. And when they see you next time, they'll remember this person writes really nice, good offers. And also there's a practical consideration. It makes it easier for your client, for you to explain it to the listing agent and for them to explain it to their client. And this is very important. Even now in this age of digital presentations, it's still very important. So the first thing to think about is buyer agency fee. So you guys are all going to be under a contract with your buyer for a buyer representation agreement, and you will be charging your buyer X amount of commission. Usually, for most of us, it's 2.5 or 3%. Sometimes it's more. Your broker has a minimum on commissions, by the way. Check your brokerage office what your minimum is. But whatever it is, you need to know before you write the offer, have a conversation with your buyer about who's going to pay it. Are they going to pay for it out of their costs, out of their pocket as a closing cost of purchase? Or are we going to use the offer paperwork to say to the seller, we'd like you to pay it? Okay. There are reasons why you would not always ask the seller to pay for it. For example, in a very competitive auction, sometimes you can improve your offer by 2.5 or 3% by having your buyers pay for it. And they may choose to do that because they want to get that extra edge if there's 10, 15 offers, right? May be what they need to win. So you want to have those discussions. Okay. But you are not to start negotiating your fee in the middle of this discussion. Your fee has been negotiated previously. They already signed the agreement with you. You're not renegotiating your buyer representation agreement. You're just deciding whether we want to ask the seller to pay for it or not. So you're getting ready. Your buyer said, I want to write. So you need to first review the offer instructions. You want to make sure you look at the confidential remarks in the MLS. Sometimes the MLS allows for agents to upload attachments. I just heard a story of this last week. It's the first time I've heard about it in 2 or 3 years. Most people do not use MLS attachments to put in instructions, but it happens from time to time, especially with agents who've been around for a very, very long time and don't like technology. But the number one place where agents are giving instructions now is in the disclosure package. Okay, so the disclosure package is usually on a service like HomeLight. You go there, you download it, and the first document in the disclosure package, you don't even need to download it to view. The first document to use is usually the cover sheet. And the cover sheet usually has a list of everything that's in the disclosure package. And at the end, any instructions the agent has for buyers. Please read those carefully. Your job as a buyer's agent is to follow those instructions as accurately as you can. It's so important. You don't want to put any barrier, you don't want to impose any barrier on the seller's agent not liking your offer, including not following their instructions. There's nothing more annoying when we as a listing agent say, please include this form, and it isn't included. What do we think of the professionalism of the buyer's agent who didn't even read the offer instructions? And by the way, guys, it happens all the time. Buyers who aren't as well educated as you do this all the time. They don't read. They just submit the offer. They don't care. What do you think of their professionalism? So you should reach out to the listing agent. Text is fine if they're texters. It's fine. Why is the seller selling? You want to know this. Motivation's important. What is their desired price? In a perfect world, Mr. Seller's agent, what is your seller looking for? Does your seller have any special terms that they want, such as a rent back? Does everyone here know what a rent back is? Yeah.
I don't. Can you explain it briefly?
Yes, of course. A rent back is where the owner still lives in the property and they don't want to move out at the end of the deal. They want to stay for 10 or 20 or 30 days. It's called a rent back because the seller is renting back from the new owner. Why would they want to do this? Because their new house isn't ready yet. They're not ready to move yet. They need to get something. Maybe they needed the money from the sale of this home for the balance of the down payment. They can't move right away. They want 3 or 4 or 5 days or maybe 10 or whatever it is. They might want a fast close of escrow. So that is something you want to find out, because maybe you can't offer the best price, but you can do it fast. You can close fast. That makes you attractive against a higher priced offer. I have seen it happen time and time again, where the seller takes a lower price offer because it's going to close in 21 days and not 30. Amazing, right? The seller may have a preferred title and escrow company. Always ask. Now, the buyer usually pays for escrow fees and title insurance, and they can legally use whoever they want, and sellers can't really demand. But in a competitive auction, and many of the companies we use around here are all like, it's not like Southern California where anyone can call themselves an escrow company. In our market, we have pretty standard escrow title combined, big companies. So they're somewhat interchangeable. So do you really care if it's Chicago Title or Old Republic Title or WFG? They're all very priced the same. But you all will develop your own favorite title officer, your own favorite escrow officers that you'll want to use on your listings. So if the seller has a preference, if we can honor it without a loss of quality of escrow and title services, then it's something you can give back very easily and get rid of one more objection to your offer, right? Your buyer's offer. And then finally, if they gave you detailed instructions in their disclosure package or in the confidential remarks, and you don't understand them, it's upon you to reach out to the listing agent and say, hey, you said to do this and this, please advise, I don't really understand, or please explain, here's my question, okay? So you haven't written the offer yet, but you're doing your due diligence to get ready to write the offer. More things to think about. As late as possible before you actually send it, you want to ask the listing agent, how many offers do you expect? How many offers have you gotten already? Can you tell me anything about those offers? They usually say no. Can you tell me the names of the brokerages of those other agents writing offers? They usually won't tell you that too. You don't have to ask this, but it's great intelligence to know who you're up against. Is the listing agent writing an offer for their own client? This is very important because you can bet that if they're writing an offer for their own client, they might be taking a reduced buyer agency fee, which means if you're asking for a buyer agency fee on behalf of your buyer, you're now less competitive So it's always good to ask them. I think this is totally fair. Are you writing, is one of the offers you're expecting coming from you? And then I always like to ask in a multiple offer, what's it going to take to win? You know, you've got 6 offers. Do we need to be over 1.2? You know, I am not afraid to ask that and see what, you know, you'd be amazed. Agents love to talk. They'll say all kinds of things they shouldn't say. Most agents are poor negotiators. 75, 80% of agents, they don't know how to negotiate. They're quick with the lip. They talk too fast. They give up too much without being forced. Terrible. Terrible. Don't be that agent. But this isn't a negotiation class. Always ask, what will it take for your client to win? And another question, and I promise you, your buyers care a lot about this. When will the sellers be looking at the offers or your offer? When will they be reviewing it? When can you expect to hear back? Find this out before you write the offer. Get a sense of it. Now, in addition to all that, there's a little bit more. You want to make sure that your buyer's homework is done before the meeting with you or before the offer is submitted. The buyer has some stuff they have to get to you. We want to talk about that. We're going to talk about the offer elements in a minute, but you need to talk about it with your buyer. Okay, we're going to meet tomorrow at 7 to write the offer. Please send me A, B, and C before that. Okay, because you want to review those things before the meeting. So at the meeting, if there's something wrong, you can get it fixed quickly so you're not delayed in submitting the offer. There's nothing more frustrating than rushing up against a noon or a 2 o'clock offer deadline, and there's a problem with your buyer's contributions. I strongly encourage you to review and go through and complete the offer with new clients in person or via video conference as a major step. Allow an hour to 2 hours for it. And it is absolutely required if they're a first-time buyer. If they're a first-time buyer, it's non-negotiable. You do not expect them to know what they're signing. In fact, I would consider it a breach of my fiduciary duty not to insist on going through the offer paperwork with my first-time buyer. Okay. So here are the elements of the offer. First, you should include a summary or cover letter, summary page or a cover letter or both. You can do this as an inside of HomeLight disclosures, inside of the offer presentation there, or you can do it as a separate email. I'll show you how I do it. I do it as a PDF attachment, but you don't have to do it that way. Second, the RPA package, all of the required and attached forms. When you fill out the RPA, if you're having a contingency release or your other form, you click the checkbox, it'll load the form. So that's why all required supplemental forms, you would also want to make sure are part of the offer element. Optionally, you can use the SBSA and the MCA, the Statewide Buyer and Seller Advisory and the Market Conditions Advisory. You could include those. It depends on the circumstances. I like to include them with first-time buyers to give the seller's agent an idea that I went over these things with my client because they had to sign them about market conditions and about things that they should be thinking about. I think it strengthens the offer, especially if it's coming from someone buying their first home, because sellers like to know that the buyer is stable, right? But it's optional. Many offers I get now for my listings do not include these 2 documents. They are part of the standard disclosure package you get from sellers. So when you get, the sellers know the buyer is seeing them. At least the seller's agent knows, because the buyer has to sign off on the disclosure package. I think it just adds power to put them in. If a disclosure package has been provided by the listing agent, which is common in our area, but certainly not universal, the receipt for disclosure should be included in your offer. It's usually the 4th or 5th page of the cover sheet page of the disclosures. I'll show you in a minute. If the listing agent in their instructions said, please include this document or that document, yeah, add those in too. If the buyer is waiving any of the major contingencies, home inspection, loan, appraisal, you should include the non-condition offer advisory form as well as the contingency release. So you have the formal contingency release form, but you should also have the advisory so that the listing agent knows, especially for a fully non-contingent offer, that you've had a conversation. By including the NCOA, you're communicating to the listing agent that you had a conversation with your buyers. They understand what it means to write non-contingent. That raises their confidence that you are an educated professional agent and that this offer is solid and the buyer isn't going to flake out on them. Nowadays, you must show proof of funds. Proof of funds is a bank statement. We're going to talk a little bit more about it later. It must show all of the DP down payment, and CC stands for? Any guesses? No? Closing costs. Okay, down payment and closing costs are part of proof of funds. So if you're writing an offer 20% down at $1 million, you need to show about $200,000 to $220,000. 20% down is $200,000 on $1 million purchase price plus a little bit more. We'll talk more about that in a minute. The buyer has to get you this information. You don't have access to their bank accounts. And then the pre-approval letter from the buyer's lender. If it's not all cash, you need a pre-approval letter. We'll talk more about that in a minute too. Before I go into the detail of all of these, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
Does
I have one.
Aiko, I'll let Vanessa go first
Sorry.
and then
Oh,
we'll get your
sorry, I
question.
didn't know.
No, you can't hear her. It's all good.
usually disclose the seller's asking price when you ask them in a competitive offer?
So the question is, does the listing agent usually disclose the seller's true desired price
Desire.
when you ask them as part of your due diligence? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Every agent is different. It doesn't hurt to ask. Many of them will say, send me your best offer.
Yeah.
And you won't get anything more. Every agent has a different strategy around that. Aiko, what was your question? Please unmute.
So, if you need to turn in your, offer and like, let's say you're missing any of these pages, like in the offer, will they like exclude you from the deal?
Maybe.
or-
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends. For example, if it's competitive and there's 6 or 7 other offers and you don't have proof of funds or pre-approval letter, you might go to the bottom of the page. If you're the only offer, they'll probably counter saying, please provide this as a contingency. So they'll do a counter offer, but I wouldn't risk it. All of this stuff is easily includable. I wrote an offer last week where we did not put in the non-contingent offer advisory. It wasn't a big deal. We had the contingency release, but we didn't have the non-contingent offer advisory. And in that case, it was a situation of only the appraisal contingency. They hadn't lifted the other contingencies. So it wasn't the end of the world. The buyer's offer was still accepted. But most of them, just try to be as thorough as possible. This save you headaches and problems.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about offer elements. The first one, a little bit more, is the summary page. This is a list, okay? It's easy to read. Now, this is different than the way it shows up in HomeLight, which is why I want you to include it. This gives you the opportunity to highlight favorable terms and highlight unusual terms in a way that make them stand out better than the way they show up when you just list them in HomeLight. So don't just rely on the digital tool. Provide your own summary page. I'll show you an example. I also recommend you include a personal cover letter addressed to the seller and their agent, 1 page or less, where you describe the best features of the offer, why the property works for your client, a reference to their financing if they're using a lender, and any special offer circumstances. And if the buyer is getting gifted funds, and so the bank proof of funds won't add up to the full amount needed, you want to explain that in your cover letter. Okay? So cover letter is a very powerful tool. I just had an offer accepted where the seller told their agent that they really loved the letter. Okay. This is not a love letter. This is an agent to seller letter. Agent to agent to seller. So you can get a lot of mileage out of these cover letters. Most agents now are getting very lazy. They just upload it to Disclosures or to HomeLight, and they don't even, here's the offer. It's a lost opportunity. It's a huge lost opportunity. Go above and beyond with this cover letter and summary page. People will think you're like, ooh, they're a good agent. Even if you're a terrible agent, they'll think you're a good agent. All right, here is a sample of one of my cover page summary pages from years ago. Okay, so property address, buyer's names, offer price, initial deposit, down payment amount, close of escrow, investigation, closing costs, and title escrow. Now, what I tend to do more nowadays is when I have something that's really strong, like in this example, 25%, now what I would do is bold it, right? And if I was offering well over asking, I would bold the offer price and maybe say with exclamation points. Or if I'm all cash, I would say all cash in big capital letters. So you can do things to make things look fancier and really bring out what you're really compelling about the offer. Like if you've waived contingencies, that's you, right, Vanessa?
Steve, that's all.
Oh, that's all right. But make sure you turn off your microphone. Otherwise, we'll have feedback. So that's an example of my summary page. The next thing is my personal letter. This is an example of the personal letter I do. Dear client, it says client, dear seller and seller's agent. I have to fix that. It is our pleasure to present this offer for this property in this city. Enclosed in the package is our complete offer. Buyer plans to live in the main house and rent the back units, and they're very excited about the opportunity to make it their own in this beautiful location. We encourage you to contact buyer's lender, loan officer name, lender name, to learn how qualified they are. You can reach them directly at phone number. We have been working with loan officer Bill and his team for years, and they are a superior lending partner for our clients. Okay, this is a huge paragraph. Always do this. Find something you can say positive about the buyer's lender and give the contact information right in the cover letter. Okay, it just shows relationship. And listing agents crave agents on the other side who seem to have it together. So if you have a relationship with the buyer's lender, or you can say something about them, like even, for example, that they have worked on 7 other deals with this buyer before, and it's not their first rodeo with this buyer, that makes your offer stronger because the seller can have rest assured that there's relationship here, so it's more likely to be less problems. Remember, the seller loses all their power as soon as they accept an offer. So they want to make sure they're in bed with someone who's going to stay in the bed. Somebody who's going to commit to the deal. Okay, who's not going to back out on them. That's my example. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this proof of funds business I was talking about before. So the first thing is, I'm sorry that there's this stuff on the screen. Let me see if I can hide that. First thing, you want to block out of the bank statements any address information or account number information. Okay, you want to show the names that you can, and you want to show the amount, a balance, but you don't need to show account numbers or mailing address, and I recommend you block it out. You can either print it out and use a Sharpie, old school, or you can actually use redaction tools with your online PDF writer, whatever. Secondly, don't send the listing agent 17 pages of the bank statement. Send them, first of all, it's none of their business, all of the charges at Carl's Jr. Okay, that's nobody's business. Okay, all they need to see is the balance at the end of the month. Send page 1. Make sure you don't send a bank statement that is 6 months old. Your buyer sometimes will give you something that's really old. You want the most up-to-date they have. So if it's July 3rd, maybe you don't have June 30th, but you should at least have May 31st. Okay. Sometimes you're going to need all the bank statements, and it may be 7. I wrote an offer yesterday. It didn't get accepted, unfortunately, where there were 7 bank statements. So I had first page of each one. If if there's going to be a gift from a family member to make up the balance of the down payment requirement, if you have the gift letter and you can include it with the offer, all the more better. Otherwise, you'll need to add it in your cover letter. Buyer is getting a gift from their parents that rounds out the amount they need for the down payment and closing costs. The other thing is retirement accounts. If you are going to use bank statements or statements from retirement accounts, remember that only half of it can, in most retirement accounts, you can only withdraw half of it without incurring a tax penalty or at all. I don't remember the exact rules. So when you're counting up the dollars to make sure it adds up to the total you need, only count half of the amount being shown on retirement statements because there's a limit on how much you can withdraw. All right, let's talk about the proof of funds. I mean, the pre-approval letter. I'm sorry that my stuff is. Let's talk about the pre-approval letter. Talk to your lender loan officer. Can they include the property address on the letter? Many pre-approvals do not include the property address. It just shows the price and, you know, that they're pre-approved and conditions for underwriting. But it's so much more powerful if the letter is customized to the address. So ask for that. They'll do whatever you want. Almost all of them will do this quite happily for you. Second, make sure, please make sure that the letter shows the price you're actually offering, not the old pre-approval amount or the one from the offer of last week. It is really unprofessional. When I get one of these, I know that the agent is not doing the job to the level that I would want them to do for if they were my client, right? But there's a negotiation thing here. Let's suppose the previous offer had been for 1.2 million pre-approval, and they're only offering 1.15. If you show them a pre-approval for 1.2, you're inviting them to counter up on price. Oh, they're already approved for more. We can counter. We know they can afford to go higher. You don't want to reveal that they can go higher at all. So don't allow the pre-approval letter to differ from the final offer amount. Good loan officers will work with you right to the last minute. Get the lender, and this is another part of the lender working with you, get your loan officer to call the listing agent as soon as your offer is submitted, but before they go to the seller. Usually that's easy. You submit your offer by a noon deadline, they're not meeting with the sellers till 4 p.m. Or they might send it to them, but they're not going to have their conversation until later. Get your loan officer to phone the listing agent. Hey, I know that Stephen just gave you this offer, sent in this offer. You know, I just want to tell you, these folks that he's working with are top notch. I've worked with them for years, and they've got a lot of reserves, and they've got a lot of capacity here. It's going to be great. You know, or the reason why we need a loan contingency is because it's a condo. Normally, they would waive the contingency. They're so pre-approved on financing, but as you know, it's hard to get a loan in the condo market right now, and we have to go through a full approval process with the HOA. So that's why we're asking for a loan contingency. Better to have for the listing agent to hear it from the lender than from you. And if you get some of these lenders, especially ones who aren't familiar with the Bay Area that well or work for big banks, will use weak language. They will say words like pre-qualified, or they'll have 15 conditions. They'll give you, you're pre-approved as long as you do all 15 of these things. And so you want to get your letters to be sharper and tighter. Some lenders do a really good job of writing just a letter that completely reassures me as a listing agent, and others not so much. All right, so you've got all your elements together. You've went through the offer with your client. Before you submit it, okay, and let's say you've sent it out for DocuSign or for digital signing and they've signed it, okay, and you're getting ready to put it into the portal, put it into DocuSign, into HomeLight. First of all, please verify that all the signatures and initials are in the right places. Now, this has always been a problem in our industry. And now it's even more of a problem because people are relying on the technology of DocuSign and these other tools to put all the initials and signatures in the right places, and it's still not perfect. Be careful. I have seen recently date fields that were left blank and initials missing in a certain place. So just take the time. Take 10 minutes and make sure each page is properly initialed and signed. When you are in a rush and when the buyer keeps changing their mind, you sometimes have a case where you've got the offer all signed and you realized, oh crud, we forgot to change this term. We talked about it at the last minute that we were going to ask for 12 days instead of 10 days. You need to check before you send the offer, you send out the offer with the right terms. It's especially when you get really busy and there's a lot of things happening at the last minute, you got to be super careful. You wrote this beautiful summary page. You wanted to get ahead of things. So you wrote your summary page in advance in the morning. Then you and your buyer decided to change the terms and your offer now is different than your summary page. Don't forget to change your summary page. It's good to check that there are no typos. Run it through your mail account. It'll check typos for you. The assessor parcel number or APN number should be at the top of page 1 of every RPA. You'd be amazed at how many times agents forget to put the APN number in. That's a pretty important thing. You'll get countered on that. Address and price. It's very hard to miss the address and price. It's not a terrible idea to have someone else look at it. Now, agents in the new agent program have to have their mentor look at it. That's required. But when you're finished with the new agent program, still have someone look at it. You know, I'm always happy if I have a moment to look over people's contracts. And your mentors will usually be too. This depends how busy they are, right? You can find somebody. Okay, so that's all about, you know, what you're presenting. But how do you want it to look? So there are 3 ways to send in an offer, to send it and to have it look. So the first is via HomeLight. Well, we used to call it Disclosures.io. HomeLight is where you get disclosures from, and they have an offer upload provision. Oh my goodness. They have an offer upload provision. So if you are going to use that service, which most of us do, a lot of agents are saying we want it sent in that way now. Please make sure that when you type it in, you match what the paperwork says in your actual RPA. Vanessa, could I trouble you to plug me in? I'm low on battery and I don't want to lose the battery. Just plug me. It'll stretch. So HomeLight and HomeLight is the main portal that we use, but there may be other portals that you get requested from the listing agent. Whatever portal you're using, make sure the numbers match. And the other thing is to make sure that you scan and attach the PDF, the paperwork for the offer as one PDF. Okay, now, the reason I recommend this is because if you do one PDF, your listing agent, it's easier for them to download it as one PDF than to download 5 documents. This is less of a problem than it was 5 years ago because of the way HomeLight works. This is less of a problem. And some agents actually do like to be able to quickly find your pre-approval letter, quickly find your bank statements. I haven't had any complaints. I'm still doing it as one PDF. Email. If the listing agent is not using a portal, or even if they are, why not also send the offer as an email? That's the way it works. As soon as the offer is submitted and we start getting into counter offers, that's all going via emails, rarely going via HomeLight, at least not yet. If you do it that way, you still want to have a quick greeting and a thank you in your email. The other thing, guys, is you might want to present in person, especially when we start talking about $3, $4, $5, $6 million homes. You know, your buyer is writing on a luxury property. Make an appointment with the listing agent. Go present them in a nice binder. At the high end, this happens much more frequently. Something to think about. All right, so you're not done yet. That is presentation, but what about follow-up? So here is your immediate follow-up. If you've submitted the offered email or digital, you want to confirm receipt of the offer and the offer review timeline. So HomeLight will automatically do this. When you submit your offer, you can say, please text me updates. And it'll say, listing agent viewed the offer. Listing agent send you a message about the offer. So you can get it, a digital confirmation. I recommend you follow up with a personal text anyway. Even though you're getting word that they looked at it, you want to follow up with them. You're probably going to want to say, so we should, would we expect to hear back from you tonight? Or something in a text. Thank you so much for looking at the offer. Do you have any questions about it? Follow up with them. Send your clients a personal text. Hey, we sent the offer. Hey, update. Listing agent looked at it. And I talked to him. They're going to look at the offers tonight. We won't have any news till tonight. Please remember, your buyers are sitting on the edge of their seat. This is a big deal for them. They are excited. If you go silent on them, even though nothing's happening, if you don't give them an expectation, this is what's going to happen next. Here's what's going to happen next. Here's what's going to happen next. Every step of the way, they're going to think, they're not going to feel that sense that you're taking care of them. So always take every touch point in the process to update your client. Text is fine. Phone call sometimes better. It depends on the client. For offers presented in person, there's a whole thing here. Send an email version right away after, send a thank you note, and let your client know what happened, how it went. But your job is still not done. So please confirm receipt, okay? But stay in touch with your client every step of the way. Even if the listing agent ghosts you, even if you haven't heard from him, follow up. If you sent the offer in the morning and you didn't hear anything about review and it's 5:30 in the afternoon, send him a text or an email or her. Say, hey, when are we expecting to hear back from you about the offer? Even if they haven't followed up fast, you follow up. Before I go to RPA reminders, when you get a ratified offer, it isn't really in here, but when the offer is actually ultimately accepted, hopefully, you want to call your client and congratulate them. Okay, you don't want to text it, phone them. Feel the excitement in their voices. It'll inspire you. Okay. Same thing with closing. When you get an official word that the deal is done, phone them or send them a text and say, can we chat for a minute? Okay. And then tell them the news over the phone. Okay. Take it with this. There's a sense in our community right now that texting is less formal than a phone call. The phone call has more gravitas too. So we're key milestones, offer accepted and offer and closing are phone calls moments or in-person moments. All right. A couple other things I wanted to talk about today is about the RPA. So the question for you guys is this is the participation part of the class. What is the definition of offer ratification? How do we know when an offer has been accepted, considered accepted legally?
By the other side. Oh, like when the listing agent like accepts. Oh, like when the listing agent like gets their clients like sign everything to.
Okay, when you're saying when it's signed by the seller.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
but you're close. What has to happen after the seller signs it? Okay, let me give you a scenario. Seller signs it. The DocuSign is showing incomplete in the email inbox of the listing agent. So what? No. How do you, the buyer's agent, know about this email sitting in the listing agent's inbox? We don't know. You're the listing agent. Your seller signs it. No counteroffer. They accept the offer. They sign the DocuSign. It's in your inbox. The buyer has no clue.
Oh.
How does the buyer know? It's sitting in the seller's inbox, seller's agent's inbox. The seller's agent has an obligation to tell the buyer's agent. Well, no, not. Yeah. What if he's in a meeting? What if he's at the gym? What if he's at the dentist and he can't do it?
Oh, no, yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking like I can't control it when the listing agent tells me that.
Right.
So like,
So it's on the listing agent. So let's reverse the situation. Let's suppose that the listing agent counters and you get the counter back and your buyer signs the counter offer and you don't email it back to the listing agent. You don't have a ratified deal. You only have a ratified deal when the final person in the chain delivers via email the signed document to the other side. You don't have a deal before that. You have a deal whether or not the other side confirms receipt, as long as you send it to the email address that was in the RPA. So the RPA has an email address for the listing agent, and that listing email is from their disclosure package. As long as you send it there, it doesn't even matter if the listing side doesn't confirm receipt. It's still considered ratified. But that's kind of a what do they call it? In the weeds. What you need to do as the last person is call or text the other person and say, did you get it? That's the part I really want you to do, okay? Offer a counteroffer signed by both parties. Offer has been emailed or delivered to the other party. That's it. No, don't forget to enter the correct agent email addresses on the last page of the RPA on the realtor section, so you know you're sending it to the right email. Okay, so that's the first question. So that, and then I should add here, and follow up personally with the other agent to make sure they got it, right? When is day one? When is day one? So the deal is a 21-day deal. When do you start counting days? What's the first day? Yes, that's right. It's the next day. If the offer is accepted on Thursday, Friday is day one. Okay? The next calendar day is day one. One more thing about this. Contingencies and offer deadlines cannot expire, cannot be due on a non-business day. So if you have a 10-day contingency for a loan or investigation or appraisal, the 10th day ends on a Saturday, it automatically extends to Monday. Unless Monday's a holiday, in which case it extends to Tuesday. Okay? Same thing with closing. You cannot close a deal on a non-business day, which means no Saturdays, Sundays, or holidays. And check with escrow, because we got some funky holidays where we might be working, but the county offices are closed. Can't record if the county office is closed. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say about this. Do you guys have any other questions?
oh, so like if you like got an offer accepted, like the day one wouldn't be till like Monday if it wasn't a holiday.
It'll be tomorrow. The start count is the next day, always. The start count, the one that gets pushed is deadlines. Deadlines get pushed. Contingency release, deposit requirement, and closing. But the day you start is always, it could be a Saturday. You ratify on a Saturday, it's Sunday, whatever it is.
Okay.
Great question.
I have a question.
Please.
So you were saying like, you know how the cover letter kind of enhances your offer, but like, what are things that you feel like a selling agent would be like, oh, that's probably like, why would, like, what are the key things that usually help you win the offer? Like, what do you feel like is
In the
something that
cover
really
letter?
yeah, the cover letter, and like what other things, like is it like the pricing amount, do you think, or like the
Well, what makes a
contingency,
competitive
or-
offer
Yeah,
is going to be contingent on the circumstances. If you're offering more than asking, more than the seller's expectations, so that's price. If you're offering a really short close and they want to close quickly, maybe you're the only one offering the rent back. Anything that you think makes the buyer's offer better than the competition should be in your cover letter. So in this example, I talked about, I didn't really give one. The first paragraph is is this the intro? The second paragraph is why the buyers like the property. And then there's a sentence about the lender. In between the sentence about the buyer's interest and the lender part is where you put it in. this property, this offer is well above your asking price, non-contingent, and gives your seller a free rent back. All of that belongs in this letter. Anything that you can say that why your offer is the best one that they should take. Great question, though. Any other questions? Okay, then. So on this page you see now is a QR code. And if you click it, you'll get a Google form to fill out about this class and request a copy of this presentation. It may be under preparing winning offers, but it could also be under something else. We got to go look. When you go to the QR code, there's like 10 or 15 classes there now. It's growing.
Is it when that list?
Yes. No, not win that listing. Is it under preparing?
Preparing winning offers.
There you go. It's right there. Preparing winning offers. That's the one. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. I hope it was useful. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys at the next class that we have. I'm gonna end this. And I'm
Thank
gonna
you. That was,
Thank
yeah,
you,
really
Aiko.
cool. Yeah.
Will I see you tomorrow, Aiko?
Yeah, you will actually. I have the whole week off.